Hey guys, so specifically today, I want to dive into Hashimoto's and what it is and what you can do. What are two important things that you really can do to move the needle to improve the symptoms of Hashimoto's? So let's dive into it. Okay, first of all, what is Hashimoto's? If you're watching this and you're newly diagnosed with Hashimoto's, you're probably confused. There's a lot of talk about the thyroid gland and hypothyroidism and all these terms that you don't understand, hormone balances, you have to take medication. Let's break it down to really simple terms because it's actually not that complicated. The thyroid gland itself is kind of complicated, like all of our complex systems of our different hormones and our different, all the different immune system that we have. And we've got lots of different things going on. And they're a complex system that all work together, which makes Hashimoto's thyroiditis one of those things that seems like it's difficult to understand, but I'm going to break it down for you. And then I'm going to tell you two important things you can do to move the needle on the two symptoms that really, really get people down, which is the fatigue and the weight gain. So one of the things that when you have Hashimoto's, people start to gain weight because your thyroid is one of the things that controls your metabolism. So it's only one thing. Your metabolism is also controlled by outside environmental things, which is a clue to what we're going to get to. But also your metabolism is also controlled by your gut microbiome, neurotransmitters and peptides and proteins and all kinds of things that are produced in your gut microbiome. So I'm going to get to that and why that's important. So let's dive into Hashimoto's. So basically, Hashimoto's thyroiditis means that your body is mistakenly attacking the thyroid gland. Now, the thyroid gland produces hormones, all kinds of hormones that regulate mood, growth in children, temperature regulation, metabolism, and your energy levels. So that's why when that goes haywire, you aren't going to feel so good. You're going to feel depressed. You might feel depressed. You might gain weight. You might feel tired all the time and can't get out of bed or get peaks and valleys of your energy. Your energy is no longer properly regulated. Your weight is no longer properly regulated. There are other things that control weight gain. But what I want to tell you is the good news, which is what we're going to talk about, which is there are outside environmental factors that can make a huge difference in improving the symptoms of your Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So yes, you are likely going to have to be on some type of thyroid medication. And really what you're taking is a hormone. It's not so much a medication in the sense like an Advil or some other kind of medication that you're taking for like a drug. It's definitely a drug, but it's a hormone like melatonin, like estrogen, like progesterone that women often take. So it is going to help you get that thyroid functioning in a way that will help you regulate all those things, because oftentimes women feel like that it's a big part of it is the metabolism, and that's where we feel it the most. Also, the dryness of your skin, hair growth, hair brittle like that. For women, that can be very, very just a difficult road, because it has to do with our looks. And oftentimes, if you're diagnosed with Hashimoto's and you're 45 and older, you feel like everything's just falling apart. But I am here to tell you that there are many things you can do, and they're not that hard and they're not expensive, to either help that medication work or lower your medication. I don't tell anybody, again, I am not a doctor. I say this in every one of my videos. Sorry, I have to go through it, but I am not a doctor. I am not telling anybody, even though I talk about medications and how to avoid being on medications. I don't tell anybody. I am not telling you to be off your medications or to take medications or even supplements, but I am telling you that there is hope, and you always want to work with your doctor like I did. I was diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis, which is a different autoimmune condition. All these different autoimmune conditions, just to digress for a second, Sjogren's, RA, lupus, they attack different systems in the body, and there's definitely a genetic factor. So if you're diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is what we're going to talk about in this video, you probably have a genetic factor. Could have been, centuries ago, generations ago. Doesn't have to be somebody that you know. Doesn't even matter. If you have been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, there are also environmental triggers. So this is an important part of this video, is to know that the genetics in your body, in your history, are only the gun. The trigger and pulling of the trigger are often environmental factors. And depending on where your journey is in this autoimmune condition, whether it be Hashimoto's or any of the others that I mentioned, there are things that you can do to improve your symptoms, particularly when it comes to fatigue and weight gain, which is mostly what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to give you 2 tips later in the video about how to make improvements in those areas, because I know the fatigue and the weight gain can be particularly frustrating. So I just want to get back to a little bit about what Hashimoto's is. So you take the medication. It's really just a hormone to help your levels, your hormone levels, the T4, the T3, get right in balance. You often might hear about balancing your hormones. So what that medication is doing is balancing your thyroid hormones so that all of the things that I talked about can start to work again, right, properly, like metabolism, mood disorders. You might have start to feel a little depressed. Particularly the fatigue can be really helped with environmental stuff that you can make changes. So if you're liking this video, if you want to hear about more autoimmune conditions, because I talk kind of about all of them, because all of them are sort of down to inflammation, right? And your immune system attacking the wrong thing, the wrong cells and tissues. And your immune system is kind of confused and overactive, right? And so that's where the tired comes in. I've talked about this in other videos. You're tired. So if you like this video, if you've been diagnosed with an autoimmune condition, please click the like button and subscribe. I release new videos every week about the best things you can do to change your environment, to change your mindset so that you can improve the symptoms of your autoimmune condition. And yes, always work with your doctor, as I did. So one of the other really important things to remember when you have any autoimmune condition, and in particular Hashimoto's, is you want to fix your gut microbiome. You want to make sure that you've got balanced microbes in there. And oftentimes you may have heard the word gut dysbiosis. When we have an autoimmune condition, our gut is messed up. Like you may have symptoms like also, in addition to the others, gas, bloating, poor motility, acid reflux. These are outward signs that your gut is not in order. But even if you don't have the signs, you might have other signs like headaches. Remember, our gut and our brain are directly related to each other. There's this two-way highway in the research in the past 20 years that scientists have found, and researchers, that there is that two-way highway between the gut and the brain. So one of the first things you want to do is fix your gut microbiome. Even if you don't have outward signs, you may not even know that some of the signs you have, like joint pain, that your gut is in sort of the state of dysbiosis or imbalance. So I have a really cool tool actually for this, which if you click the link below, I have this, I call it my gut check quiz. And it's really, really helpful because you kind of just go down a few different sort of symptoms and you check off where you are on that scale, and it'll give you a number. And that way you'll kind of know if you didn't, you may think that acid reflux is normal. You may think that, I don't poop more than 3 times a week. That's normal. No, it's not. So we get down and dirty here. So there's lots of things that people normalize and think is normal because maybe your mom has acid reflux and you think that's normal. Or maybe your mom has poor motility or like an IBS kind of thing. Like, oh, I'm always bloated. Oh yeah, in my family, the girls are always bloated. That's not normal. Just news flash, you guys. So fixing that will be very, very helpful. And I'm going to definitely get to the 2 things that can help you right out of the gate, help the gut dysbiosis and give you more energy and help you lose weight. Okay, here we go. So the first thing to do, and it might be difficult. It might be a road. It might be something that you're like, or it's going to be something that's super obvious, right? So you want to get rid of, and if you've watched my other videos, you could probably guess what I'm going to say. You want to get rid of all of the processed, highly processed foods. And I'm doing this because it's that food that is in the middle of the market. So little known fact, 73% of the food in the market is highly processed foods. Highly processed foods come with seed oils, highly inflammatory, sugar, highly inflammatory. All kinds of other chemicals that if you look on the ingredients, there's probably 65 ingredients that you never heard of. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but there's probably a lot that you've never heard of that wouldn't be in your pantry. So if you're reading a label, and I encourage you guys to do this, it's a big step. If you're someone who is in the middle of the market and really go to your pantry, and I used to do this with clients where I'd go into their pantry and we'd read labels and we'd realize that there's sugar in ketchup. There's all kinds of junk in, the packaged foods. And so you want to limit those. Obviously, if you want ketchup, you're not going to make your own ketchup. So you're going to have to buy ketchup, but there are ketchups with no sugar and no oils in them, right? Peanut butter, lots of options now for no sugar and no oil. So you want to limit or eliminate completely. Depends, how much of a priority this is for you. If you're like, I don't feel well, I am debilitated, what can I do? Oh my God, I'm eating a lot of packaged foods. Now, don't read the label on the front that says keto, gluten-free, healthy, no sugar. That is marketing, you guys. I'm just going to state some obvious stuff. I don't want to be condescending and I don't want to tell you stuff that's obvious, but if you're really struggling, this is where you want to start. Eliminating anything that you can in a box, with a barcode, in a package, in a plastic bag, anything that you're buying from that middle of the market. I don't care if it says it's healthy. I don't care if it says that it's keto. That's a big red herring. I don't even know if I'm using that term correctly. Maybe you guys can tell me if I am. It's a big red herring. It's drawing you into something that is absolutely not true. There are no rules when it comes to what big food companies can tell you on the front of the package. So you want to go to the back of the package, and I don't mean, this is a major tip, you guys, I don't mean the nutritional label, because the nutritional label might say no added sugar, might say 0 sugar. But if you look at the actual ingredients underneath that box, it's not good. It's going to have all kinds of chemicals that are inflammatory. That's why I'm telling you to stay away from the middle of the market. Those foods are creating more inflammation. They have very little nutritional value. Even if it says and we're not calorie counting, right? So it might say if you're trying to diet and lose weight, which you might be if you have a diagnosis of Hashimoto's and you're having trouble losing weight, you might be putting yourself on a diet and you might be looking at calories. Another thing, ladies, this is all part of the no packaged foods. The packaged foods are relying on you just looking at that 100 calorie or less. That is not going to be helpful in your Hashimoto's healing journey. And that's what I'm trying to do here is help you heal from Hashimoto's. If it's a priority, this is a big step if you're on a lot of packaged foods and trying to diet, right? So that's where you want to start, is getting yourself away from the middle of the market and only shopping on the outside of the market. Of course, are you going to have packaged foods in your house, snacks, whatever? Yes, but you want to limit as much as you can. So go, instead of the 100 calorie pretzel, go for 100 calorie green apple. Green apple's a little bit less sweet than the red. Instead of the snacking that you're doing, go for, instead of chips, go for nuts. I know nuts come in a package, but I don't know that there's any other way, but go for the nuts that don't have seed oils and aren't roasted. I know those don't taste as good, but here's a pro tip on the dieting, ladies. If the nuts don't taste as good, you're not going to eat them like chips, right? So go for the non-packaged snacks, the carrots, the celeries, the whole real food that your great-great-grandparents would recognize, because the middle of the market food is going to be where your inflammation is being exacerbated, is what I want to say. So when you have Hashimoto's, when you have an autoimmune condition, it's an inflammatory condition. And why I say take my gut check quiz is because 70% of your immune system resides in your gut. That's the first line of defense, is your gut area of where the outside meets your insides, right? So your first responders are in your gut. And so if you're giving it stuff that's inflammatory, if you're giving it, gluten, which I'm not going to get into gluten on this video because that's kind of a whole nother thing about why gluten's inflammatory in this country. I have other videos on that. But really, this is the place to start, and increasing your real whole food and replacing that middle of the market packaged foods with real whole food. That is step number 1. Okay, so let's move on to step number 2. Another hard one, but I'm assuming if you're still watching this that you're highly motivated to make some changes. So step number 2 is refined sugar. So you get rid of that refined sugar in any form. Now, if you've done step number 1 and you've gotten rid of some of that packaged food, you're getting rid of a lot of the carbohydrates and refined sugar also, because those packaged foods are also filled with refined carbohydrates. So the step number 2, which is removing refined sugar. Now, you don't have to remove refined sugar forever. 3 months. Give me 3 months. You guys do it on your own. You don't need me to do this. 3 months of no refined sugar. That means cookies, cakes, candy, the baked goods, bagels. I'm sorry, but bagels are going to have a lot of sugar in them. So getting rid of just the refined sugar. I'm not even saying gluten and the high carbohydrate food that you might be consuming. That's next level, because I know that's a lot harder for people. But if you're buying packaged bread, if you're still on packaged bread and gluten, buy the bread that doesn't have any sugar. Your taste buds are going to be in a little bit of a shock if you haven't done this. However, I guarantee you guys, even with Hashimoto's, even with any other autoimmune condition, your joints will feel better and you will lose weight. Removing the packaged foods that highly processed, highly palatable. I know they're addicting. You may go through a little bit of a detox flu, but getting rid of the refined sugar is also going to be helping your gut microbiome, because the gut microbiome, if you have candida, which oftentimes people with autoimmune condition have this diagnosis of candida or SIBO or IBS or something like that. The refined sugar is feeding the bad bugs in your gut microbiome, and we need to starve those out. And so I'm not even saying, stop eating bread and pasta unless it has actual sugar in it, but you can replace some of those breads and pastas with the non-sugar. Now, I wouldn't go so much to the sugar substitutes, and I got a whole nother video about sugar substitutes somewhere, but I wouldn't, because some of them are more dangerous than others and they do mess up your microbiome. But be aware of the other names for sugar and the things that will aggravate and cause gas and bloating. So if you've got a lot of gas and bloating, that is a sign that you need to remove sugar from your life. And it doesn't have to be forever. You can have a dessert every once in a while. You don't have to be a no sugar person, but for 3 months, you really do have to give yourself that long, because the sugar addiction, if you're somebody who has, self-diagnosed yourself as a sugar addict, which I was, so I totally get it, because I actually didn't have much of a weight problem. I was kind of bloated and puffy, but once I went off the sugar, I definitely, slimmed down and kept that off. And then the further you get away from that sugar addiction, the less it looks appealing. And probably if you're listening to this and you're like, yeah, I'm addicted to sugar, you're chasing it down and wanting it every single day. And I kind of talk about the 3 phases of sugar addiction also in other videos, but you need to kind of know where you are on that spectrum. Are you chasing it down? Are you eating it only if it's in front of you? That's a little bit better, but if you're thinking about it when it's not there and you're going out and leaving the house and going to get some frozen yogurt, ice cream, I got to go, let's go get those cookies. If you're thinking about if it's occupying brain space, you're definitely addicted, and you need 3 months, because it takes a long time to get that monkey off your back. But I guarantee you'll lose weight if you go off sugar. I'm talking about refined sugar, not fruit right now. That's a whole different thing as well. But I just wanted to make it really simple for you guys. I know it's easy for me to say, not so easy for you to do, but that's the first place to start. If you have been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, if you know someone who has been diagnosed with Hashimoto's and this video will be very helpful for them, please click the share button and it'll say copy link, and you can pass it on to them, and take my gut check quiz as well. I think that will be very helpful for you to understand where you are on that spectrum of gut health. Okay, thanks for listening, guys. Hope that was helpful.